welcome to the Paws for Stitches podcast. My name is Candy, and I am coming to you from the Adirondack Mountains in New York State, specifically Wilmington, New York. And for those of you who don't know where Wilmington is, it's located about 15 minutes away from Lake Placid, which, of course, if you are a hockey fan, you know that is where the 1980 Miracle on Ice took place. So, yep, Jamie and I are up here at our cabin that we lovingly refer to as the Labrador Retreater, which, if my two co-hosts join me for a couple minutes, you'll understand why it's called that. Clarence and Addie are two labs, one black and one yellow. For those of you who might be new to the podcast, you might get a little peek and a little hello from them as well, I hope. I'm actually sitting out here on the deck at the moment. Truth be told, I do not know how long this is going to last. The sun's kind of peeking in and out. It's a little bit of a cooler day here up in Wilmington, but as you can see, I'm having, wind issues. So unless you guys want this to be like the J-Lo episode where I have like the wind machines blowing through my hair. Oh, and see, look, I think we're definitely going to be playing with light a little bit here because now the sun just peeked out, and I'm sure shortly it'll probably go away again. So that seems to be the kind of day that we're having up here in the Adirondacks, but it's beautiful. The only thing that's not beautiful about it is that not too long after I'm done talking to you guys, Jamie and I and the dogs will be packing it in and heading home. We actually took a couple personal days, or Jamie took personal days, I took vacation days off of work so that we could spend a long weekend up here in the Adirondacks. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you may have already seen this, and I will definitely, I promise you, in fact, at some point we will be going inside the house so that I can show you guys one of the reasons that we were up here this weekend, which was the delivery of our long-awaited antler chandelier. So a lot of you have gotten to know Jamie and me, and I always like to tell you guys stories about Jamie. But one of the things that he has begged for since we have gotten this place is for this antler chandelier, which it was between an antler chandelier and a giant some sort of deer or animal head on the wall. So I was like, hands down, antler chandelier, done. I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe he just gave me those two options because he knew I would go with antler chandelier, because the thought of having some deer creepily staring at me all the time is a little freaky. But I will say, there haven't been too many times in our marriage where I've disagreed with some cockamamie idea or scheme that Jamie had. And once again, I'm glad that I listened to him because I'm really, really pleased. It was a little bit frightening. The installation of this thing was a little bit frightening. Jamie turned into what I can only describe as Spider-Man climbing on this crazy scaffolding. Oh, there's Addie in the background for those of you who see her roaming around. Oh, now she just plopped down. Clarence is they're both like sunbathing at the moment. Kind of lazy. So I'm sure as soon as I wrinkle or crinkle something, they'll come say hello. But anyway, back to the chandelier. So yeah, he was fortunate enough. Our neighbors up here, right up the street from us, actually have some scaffolding that they let us borrow. So we literally moved everything out of the way in our sort of it's more like a great room. It's kind of like the kitchen, living room, and dining area all in one. So we had to move a ton of stuff out of the way so that we could actually put up this, I think it had 3 tiers actually, the scaffolding, because of, he obviously had to get all the way up to the top of the cathedral ceiling in the great room, which I had been secretly very nervous about. As those of you who know me well by now know, I'm very protective of Jamie, especially since he had his heart attack, and the thought of him doing some of the shenanigans he was doing on Friday made me a little bit nervous, but we did fine. So I'll talk about that more a little bit later when I take you guys inside and show you how it looks. Oh, see, there you go. There's the wind. It's probably going to stick in my lipstick. It's going to be tons of fun. So let's see how long this lasts. I should apologize in advance for all the moving the hair out of the way gestures. So that's it. Again, welcome. It's the Paws for Stitches podcast. That is what you are watching right now, if you haven't figured that out. And I'm so glad. I want to welcome back people who are returning. I want to say thank you to people who are returning, and I want to say welcome to new viewers who maybe are finding me for the first time. I'm going to try my best to stick to what I want to do, to stick to the plan today so that we can, move this along, because as we all know, I have a tendency to chit-chat a little bit too much. So anyway, if you are looking for me on any form of social media, pretty much the two places you can find me most easily would be on Ravelry and Instagram. And for both of those, you can find me as Paws 4. That's the number 4. Paws 4 Stitches. And I'm so glad to be spending some time with you guys today. Part of me doing this on a day that we're leaving, it's sort of bittersweet. I always look forward to being able to podcast up here, especially outside now that the weather's getting nice again. So doing this today hopefully will make it, it'll give me a good memory of the day, and, maybe, I don't know if it'll make it easier or harder when we have to pack the car in a couple hours. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this is Holy Smokes. What did I figure out? Is this episode 20? Holy cow, this is episode 20. I have talked to you guys now 20 times. I can't even believe it. But as you know, one of the things I was most excited about last episode was the fact that it was my podiversary. So last time I talked to you, which was a few weeks ago, happened to be 1 year since I started this crazy adventure. And I know that many of you know this because several of you entered in the podcast or the podiversary giveaway thread in my Ravelry group, which, by the way, I did not mention that before. There is also a Paws for Stitches Ravelry group that you should go over and check out, because it is tons of fun and there are tons of amazing people in there to chit chat with and have a good time with. I'll also be talking about another exciting Ravelry group in a little while, so hold on for that. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to keep you in suspense on that one. But anyway, back to the podiversary giveaway. What I had asked you guys to do, those of you who were interested in entering, was to pop on over to the thread and kind of mention like a favorite episode or a favorite moment from this last year. And also, I was really looking for some honest advice on how I could improve the podcast moving forward. Before I draw for the winner, I really, really just want to say a heartfelt thank you to you guys for the wonderfully honest feedback that you gave. I'm a supervisor of teachers, and one of the most important parts of my job is that I have to give feedback to people, and sometimes that can be a really difficult thing for people to receive. I actually have always been the opposite kind of person. Like, I'm usually pretty darn hard on myself, so I'm always like begging people to give me feedback, and I'm really truthfully glad that you did. There are definitely a few things I'm going to try to be mindful of moving forward. I thought it was funny how many people actually mentioned that they missed seeing Jamie, because Jamie has not necessarily been as much of a regular guest star, shall we say, on the podcast recently. It seems like every time I'm filming, he's got something else going on. Or the other thing that happens is related to other feedback that I received, is that sometimes I just feel like the podcast is going on too long. And as much as I'd love to spend some time chit-chatting with Jamie, those of you who've been with me from the beginning, you know that I had this hope of having this OM Jamie segment, and I've not been able to do that as regularly as I would like. So I have some ideas about that moving forward. I don't know if it'll happen today, but I just wanted to say that Jamie appreciates the fact that, and I think he's astounded by the fact that you guys actually enjoy, sort of watching the banter between the two of us. So we're glad that is entertaining, because honestly, it's not entertaining. It's just pretty much what we're like together all the time. So that is that. The other thing, like I said, there were a few people, I think, who commented on the length of the podcast. I'm with you guys on that one. Believe me, every single time I finish wrapping up an episode, I think to myself, oh God, it's too long, it's too long, it's too long. And I stress about that a little bit, but I'm going to continue trying to do my best. One of the things I'm thinking about, and obviously it did not happen for this time for reasons that I have an explanation for, but I'm wondering if I could podcast a little bit more frequently. I've kind of been averaging about every 3 to 4 weeks right now. I'm wondering if I could shoot for closer to every 2 weeks or so. Maybe that won't be as much of an issue because I won't have as much to talk to you guys about. Part of the problem that I've had is when I wait too long, then I have so much I want to talk to you guys about that it's hard to cut some of it out. So, but again, I just wanted to say a general thank you to you guys for all of the amazing feedback that you shared with me. So without any further ado, let me take this out here. I think I had 17 entries for the Podversary giveaway. And just as a reminder, because it's been a while, I just wanted to show you guys that the winner that I choose in a moment is going to be receiving this beautiful skein of Spirited Fibers. This is their 80% merino, 20% nylon. It's about 400 yards, and it's the I Dream in Technicolor colorway. This is their fingering weight yarn. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I get this up here right in Lake Placid at Adirondack Yarns, which is a beautiful yarn shop that is owned by Sue, who is absolutely amazing. So I'm glad I'll talk about Sue again later because I didn't get the chance to pop over there while we were up there this weekend. The other thing I have, it's probably going to be a little hard to show you, but these are the stitch markers I showed last time from A Needle Runs Through It. They're adorable. They're little cups of coffee, donuts, sort of coffee. Oh, here goes the wind. Look at this. Seriously. Oh, brother. I gotta probably decide. Maybe I'll get through this, first intro segment, which of course is already going on. Whoa, there goes some stuff falling on the floor. Maybe I'll get through this intro segment, and then I might have to take this party with you guys inside. We'll see. That was actually the first blast of wind that I've had like that, so I don't know, maybe that was kind of a fluke thing, but here we go. Hello, Addie, say hello. Yes. So anyway, the yarn, the stitch markers, I also have, and it just fell on the floor, so I'm not going to bother to pick it up, but an awesome bar of handmade soap from another one of my favorite shops up here in the Adirondacks called Owl's Head. And then last but not least, because I had talked about them on the last podcast and I'm going to show them to you again later, I'm going to be gifting, Clarence, oh boy, seriously, all the time. You know what, by the way, feedback, something that people like about the podcast is when Clarence and Addie totally wreck the show, which pretty much happens all the time. So I'm really glad you guys like that because you know what? Sometimes it's a pain in the neck. So I'm glad it's at least entertaining for all of you because sometimes not so much for me. But anyway, the bar of soap and then the slip and swirl sock pattern by Chris Loves Wool, who is the host of the In a Snit podcast. I'm going to be also gifting the winner that pattern as well because I really, really think, so I put this down for a second, I really do think that the yarn, the Spirited Fibers yarn, and that pattern will be a really, really nice match. Okay, Clarence, why don't you sit, buddy? You sit? There you go. Oh, we see a head. And there it goes. So anyway, without any further ado, let me go back to this. I have everybody's names written out on a piece of paper here. All right, with all 17 of the entries. I think I already have the random, oh God, here. And now we're moving the cameras again. And I think I already have this set up for 1 through 17. Okay, we're doing this live today, and this is maybe a little bit of a private joke from the Farm and Fiber tour that I was just at recently, but my lovely friend Mary Beth, who I've now been to at this retreat with 2 years in a row, she got such a kick out of using a random number generator for something fun that we did together at the retreat. So I promise that I'm going to do this live because apparently that is much more exciting than, I guess, to some people than having it already prepared in advance. So here we go. I'm going to hit generate. And the result, as you can see, is, whoops, I think you can see it, hopefully is number 15. So let me go over to my trusty list and see who that was. And number 15 was Jennifer. I'm going to put this closer. Your Ravelry name there is Jennifer Stack, who actually was somebody new that I recognized for this actual giveaway entry. So I'm going to just pop over there for a second and find Jennifer. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Here she is. Oh my God, this is so funny, Jennifer. So you actually had said that you love two things: when the dogs cause earthquakes or general mayhem, and when Jamie stops by on the podcast. And Jennifer also said that she liked hearing about my goal setting process for this year. So see, look at that, Jen, or Jennifer, or Jenny. I don't know what you go by. We're going to stick with Jennifer Stack. But I arranged a dog earthquake just for you today already. And I'm sure it won't be the last one. And Jennifer also says that she looks forward. Oh, longer podcasts are tough for her. Thank you so much. Again, that was definitely something that several people said. So we will definitely see what we can do about that. I hope I can make that better in the future. But again, I appreciate that. And Jennifer also says that she has cabin envy. So I feel like I should apologize for that in some way. But, again, one of the things that I love about podcasting from up here is it's a place where I'm calm and comfortable and relaxed. So it's just, sometimes it's actually more fun and enjoyable for me to talk to you guys from up here. It's actually funny how many people have asked me, just as a little side note, questions about the cabin and how we ended up here and all of that stuff. Jamie and I think maybe I've said this before, but we are definitely hoping to. It's funny, a lot of people like to retire down south where it's warm. We're looking forward to being able to retire up here in the Adirondacks where it's a little chillier. We love the winter, we love the snow. And we just love the area up here. It's actually where we are. One of the nicest things about it is that all 4 seasons are a blast, and there's something to do between all of the snow activities and then the hiking when it starts to get a little bit warmer out. There's so many lakes around to do kayaking and canoeing. There are a lot of things that we haven't even learned to get into yet that we really look forward to when the day comes that we can really retire up here and really start to enjoy our lives without the pressures of work. So in the meantime, I've also had a couple people actually ask, interestingly enough, if we do rent out our cabin, and we actually do. I mean, we've had the place now for over 2 years, and I would have thought that by now we probably would have formally listed it somehow. But so far, because we've been doing little projects here and there, and sometimes that makes it difficult to formally get it set up through like VRBO or anything like that, or Airbnb. We've kind of just been doing sort of word of mouth rentals, which has actually worked out just fine for us. We've been able to kind of do that in a way that balances like having people being able to share this place with other people, but also being able to come up here and work on things and enjoy it for ourselves. So I know this sounds crazy, but if anybody, I don't mind questions like that. If anybody has questions about something like that, or even if you have questions or would like recommendations for other places you can stay in this area, you can always PM me on Ravelry or Instagram, and I'd be happy to get in touch with you and help you out with that. So Jennifer, by the way, I'm assuming your name is Jennifer by your Ravelry name. I hope that if you didn't hear this, if I don't hear from you in a little while, I will definitely get in touch with you and get your address information so that I can send that prize your way. So congratulations, and thank you again for your feedback. I'm going to try and work on those things that you suggested. All right. So speaking of, I'm going to try and hang on a little longer out here. It's like it just feels really comfortable. I don't know how many other disastrous things are going to happen, like things blowing all over the place. But the next thing I wanted to move on to are some updates, speaking of, with my goal setting and dreams and schemes and whatnot for the year. There has been a little sidetracking that's been going on these last, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks. And I'm sort of wearing the explanation for the sidetracking, so we will get to that shortly. But I did want to talk a little bit about my sock experimentation and also my mitten a month challenge. just for a couple minutes. I don't really have a lot to say about either of those things since the last time we spoke, but I just mentioned that, Jennifer, I'm going to be gifting you a copy of this slip and swirl sock pattern. I have actually gotten a little bit more done on the first of these socks since the last time I talked to you guys. But I wanted to remind you of what this looked like. So you really, I think if you look closely enough, you can definitely see the patterning in here. This is a pattern by, as I mentioned earlier, Christy, who is Chris Loves Wool on Instagram and Ravelry, and she also hosts the Innocent podcast, which I absolutely adore because not only do I love Christy, but I love her dog Fred. And for that reason, because I'm working on Christy's socks, I actually put a little Labrador stitch marker on here, which it's not a black lab like Fred, but it is a yellow lab like my Addie. And, I happen to think that Addie and Fred might be a lovely couple, Christy, so you never know. If she ever decides to cheat on Clarence, I'll give you a call. But anyway, this pattern is just so lovely, and if I didn't rave enough about it the last time, I just wanted to bring it up again because I had said, and I had put my word down on this, that for me, this is sort of it reminds me of how I felt when I first started working on Hermione's Everyday Socks. And I know how much everybody loves the Hermione Everyday Sock, so if you are a fan of that, you would absolutely love this. This is the perfect sock pattern for somebody who is looking for subtle patterning, but something that's easy to memorize and easy to work on, even when you're still watching TV and whatnot. I haven't had any problems with that. So Christy, I can't say it enough. You did an amazing job with this pattern. And I just so greatly appreciate that you gifted it to me as well. So I'm just doing my sort of good deed and passing it on to somebody else. I actually sent this pattern recently to another good friend of mine as a little birthday gift. I have a feeling this is a pattern I'm going to be gifting to a bunch of people because I really think it's one that has to be in everybody's library. So again, the Slip and Swirl pattern by Christy of Chris Loves Wool. All right. I also wanted to just mention, I know I said this last time, but I'm working with the Felici sock yarn, of course, which is just as amazing and cloud-like as everybody promised me it would be. So I'm looking forward to, now that I'm going to have more time because I'm not working so monogamously on one project, I'm looking forward to getting back to these because I really think they're going to fly off the needles once I have a little bit more time to work on them. So sock experimentation is still continuing. This time around, again, now I'm working, my experiment is kind of getting back to working with a little bit of patterning on my socks because I spent the first few months of this year really trying to nail down needle size, what type of heel I like, all of those kinds of things that are decisions that go into making and knitting socks. So now that I'm kind of pleased with some of those things, I'm trying to see how introducing some patterning might either change that or necessitate my having to, make different decisions about needle size or stitch count, all that stuff. So far I did try this on. It was a little bit snug, but I actually think it's going to be okay. I would prefer my socks to be a little more on the snug side than to be too loose because that drives me absolutely insane. So that's that. Sock experimentation still going, but again, didn't have a lot of time to put a lot into it these last few weeks. Next thing that I have been updating everybody about in terms of my dreams and schemes for 2017 has been my personal Mitten a Month challenge, which, just as a quick recap, my goal is to try to knit one mitten every single month this year so that by the end of the year I have 6 pairs of mittens. So far I'm still on track, even though I don't have anything to show you guys today mitten related. Last time I talked about the thrummed mittens. I am still going, but it is only, May 15th today? May 16th? I can't even remember. But I still have half of the month to finish my first of the 2 thrummed mittens. That'll be my mitten project for the next couple months. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to get back to that as well. What I realized, though, is that what I haven't done a good enough job reminding everybody about is that not only is the Mitten a Month challenge a personal thing for myself, but if you go over to my Ravelry group, back in January, I had already started a Mitten a Month Cal, so that you guys, if you wanted to, could join in on the challenge as well. You don't have to challenge yourselves to knit one mitten every month, but basically, if you want to jump in on any kind of mitten knitting, you can certainly do that. The way I've set it up is that I'm actually doing a giveaway every other month. So the goal for you guys is that you do have to have a finished pair of mittens to actually submit for a prize for those 2 months. So already I've given away a January-February prize. And I just recently closed the thread for FOs for March and April. Now, the only thing is, I'm not going to draw for a prize for that today because there's actually one more thing prize-wise that I'd like to add. But I wanted to show you guys 2 things that I'm going to be throwing in. I've had some wonderful donations to the podcast over the last year, and some of them I've been able to give away immediately. Others I've kind of been holding on to for when I thought it would be appropriate to share them with all of you. So for the March and April mitten drawing, what you are going to be receiving is you are going to be receiving one of these amazing little kits from the Barbara, who does the Knitting I Love podcast. I absolutely love these. I do not want to take this out of the packaging, but as you can see, there is sort of your gauge. I call it the gauge coaster because it actually works really well to even put things on while you're knitting, but there's also the little holes there for different needle gauge size. And then in there as well, if you can hopefully see it, is one of Barbara's little Progress Keeper holders where you actually can clip those awesome Progress Keepers right onto the little holes that go around that adorable pink square. So that will be one prize for the Mitten a Month challenge giveaway for March and April. But along with that, what I would like to also give away is a skein of yarn. I have a couple in mind that I think would work really well for mittens, but I don't have it with me, and I really want to show it on the podcast. So I'm definitely going to draw for that next time. I just wanted you guys to know that I did not forget, and that I also am going to, if you already have something and you've been waiting to put it in for the May-June Mitten a Month knit along, I will open that up as well, because I don't think, unless I'm totally forgetting that I did something and just don't remember it, I don't think I've actually opened that FO thread yet, so I will go ahead and do so. For those of you who are interested in mittens, though, there is also one of the things I'm going to try to do is keep better up to date on sort of a mitten bundle. I have a bundle that you can see some of the ideas, but I wanted to see if anybody else has anything that they would like me to add to that bundle. Please let me know, and I will go ahead and do that. So that is that. So in some ways, I feel like I've been a little bit of a mitten slacker these last few weeks, but it's time for me now to talk about something else that will bring complete justification to why I've been a slacker on anything else these last few weeks. And if you haven't already figured it out, I am totally wearing it. Yep, I am wearing my boxy sweater by Joji Locatelli, and believe you me, as I talked about on the last podcast, I had a bit of a rough start with my V-neck boxy, not because of any reason with the pattern or anything like that. The pattern is absolutely beautiful to work with. I don't know. At some point, I forgot how to use a ruler, and I forgot how to measure, and I totally goofed on something, and I needed to basically rip out a good chunk of it and sort of get back. Oh, there goes the windblown J-Lo hair again. I feel like I should have music going and like be doing a little bit of a dance when that happens. But unfortunately, though, if it were like the right kind of wind blowing hair, it would be blowing like up and like real sexy looking, not in my face, so it looks like a hot mess. But what are you gonna do? But anyway, I don't think I'm not probably gonna be able to get up and show you the boxy, but I can sort of do this. so that, again, you can sort of see. I really had no idea what this was going to look like, because it's funny, when you call it boxy, there's definitely a reason for that, because when you actually finish it, and especially after I blocked it, it looked a little bit ridiculous. Like when it was just laying flat and drying, I thought to myself, I measured and remeasured. I kept getting the right measurements. I'm like, all right, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. And I just wasn't really sure what it was going to look like on. I will wear the heck out of this thing. I can promise you that, because it is, not only is it the most comfortable sweater I think that I've made for myself, but it actually is particularly flattering. I mean, not, on anybody. I really do think it would be. If you are questioning whether or not the time that it takes to make a fingering weight boxy sweater is worth it, I highly recommend it. The only thing I wanted to mention about my boxy sweater, I jotted down a couple notes here. I personally, and this is the first time this has ever happened to me before, I had a minor problem when I had to, right around here obviously, pick up the stitches so that I could do just the plain stockinette sleeve the rest of the way down. What happened to me was I ran into a situation where I actually I had too many stitches that I needed to pick up. Like if I had picked up the number of stitches that it called for in the pattern, I wouldn't have made it all the way around the sleeve. So after a little bit of consulting with some friends, I had shared with people that what I thought I was going to do was literally just pick up the stitches that I thought I needed to pick up, and then somehow make up for it within maybe like the first 3 rounds of that stockinette stitch to see if I could get it back to what the stitch count was supposed to be. So I wasn't sure if that would make anything sort of lumpy or bumpy. I don't know if you can really see it. No, here it is. I wasn't sure if that would make anything lumpy or bumpy, but it really did not. So I was kind of proud of myself for taking that little bit of a risk, where normally I feel like months ago, years ago, I would have tried and tried a million times to pick up the exact number of stitches that were called for in the pattern. But I just kind of figured I'm at that point now where I'm comfortable sort of taking risks. I always think about my friend Lisa, who does the Knitting by the Sea podcast, and Lisa always says her sort of goodbye line is always, it's just knitting. So I decided to take that approach, that it's just knitting, it's just picking up stitches, and basically my goal right now is to make sure that I'm going to be able to continue with a sleeve that doesn't have any holes or gaps or anything funky or bumpy or anything like that. And I think I was able to achieve that. So I can't be more pleased with this sweater. I absolutely love it. And can we talk about this yarn for the millionth time? We can talk about it, and I can even show you the ball band, or the band from the skein one more time. Marionated yarns. Seriously, Marion, I can't imagine that you in a million years would ever watch this podcast, but if you do, you need to know how much I love you. This yarn, this is her Scrumptious HT fingering weight yarn. It is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. I can't even tell you how soft. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law were with us this weekend as I was pretty much wrapping this thing up and finishing it. They could not stop, and they're not knitters. They could not stop touching the sweater. They could not stop touching the yarn. Even Jamie, when he went to hug me, like when I put it on and I finished it, yep, you guys want to get felt up? Let me tell you, you definitely would benefit from having something made out of this gorgeous yarn, because even Jamie, who doesn't necessarily notice stuff like that all the time, he just kept like rubbing my arm, hugging me, saying it felt so soft and squishy. It is awesome. It is really a beautiful, beautiful yarn choice for this particular project, and I'm really glad that I took a chance with that. I told you what base of Marion's yarn it is. I did not tell you the colorway. The colorway is Alice's List. And again, this combination of the different tones of greens and blues is just amazing. And I'm glad I'm outside because I'm like, wow, it even like looks so pretty in the trees and kind of matches with being outside. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I was a little afraid. So funny because I just actually, I don't know if you probably can't tell, but I finally took time to get my hair colored again. It desperately needed it because, you know, I'm going to be 45 next month, and it's becoming harder and harder to control these pesky gray hairs. So when I went to get my hair colored, and I told the woman who does it, I said, give me something a little like more with some like pop and highlights and stuff. And she went a little redder than usual. And my first thought was, oh my God, is that going to clash with my boxy sweater? So you're a knitter when you're questioning your choice of hair color based upon a completed finished object that you want to be able to wear. So anyway, again, I couldn't be more pleased. I think the fingering weight, by the way, I think is going to be awesome really pretty much any time of the year. Because even now, like that, it's a little bit, it's cool today, but even now that as it gets a little bit warmer, I don't think it's going to be too heavy. It's going to be a perfect sweater for up here in the Adirondacks, especially on a summer evening when Jamie and I go into Lake Placid to walk around the lake or go to dinner or whatever. But I want a worsted boxy though. I can tell you that right now. I'm not starting one anytime soon, but that is definitely going now in my queue because I can't wait to make one. So that is that. So the boxy sweater is done, and that is precisely the reason why I don't have a ton of other things to talk to you guys about in terms of finished knitting, but it was worth it. Sometimes, I will say, sometimes being monogamous is worth the torture of just working on one thing. I usually like to have a bunch of things that I'm working on so that, I kind of keep my interest up. But this project was amazing. I didn't get bored with it once. And I seriously, I would make another one. Like if I ever fell in love with another colorway of yarn, I can see myself now in the future going, oh my God, that would make a beautiful boxy. That would make a beautiful boxy. So we'll see, but I'm sure at some point there will be another one of these in my future. So I hope if you've been on the fence about making one, I hope I've pushed you over because you won't regret it, I promise. All right. So, and the other thing that I'm so freaking excited about is that I realize that now when I take my class with Joji Locatelli in November at the, what the heck is the retreat called? I can't even remember what it's called, but I'm heading to Edmonton with some friends. Knit for Fun retreat. I think that might be what it's called. I don't know. As we get closer to it, I'm going to tell you guys more about it anyway, but I'm still even waiting for the details in terms of like what classes that I actually was assigned to take. But Joji Locatelli is one of the instructors, so I definitely will be taking something with her, and you can be sure I will totally like fangirl and geek out on her and wear this sweater when I have that class because it's Joji. All right. So thanks again, you guys. All right. Moving right along. We're doing okay. I don't think the wind thing is too terrible. We're going to keep going. We're at about 38 minutes now. And the next thing I want to move into, I am so excited to talk about. And as usual, I am late to the party. It's pretty much the story of my life, honestly. I oftentimes have a little bit of trouble. Not punctuality in terms of like showing up on time for things, but I don't know. I'm just always like spending too much time thinking about things that sometimes by the time I'm ready to actually commit to something, it's later than I wanted it to be. So this would be another case just like that. So here's the deal. Moving right along, this has nothing to do with dreams and schemes in 2017. But what it does have to do with is just all of the benefits that I have reaped from starting this podcast. And I talked about it last time, but one of those benefits, as I've mentioned to you all, has definitely been meeting some amazing friends. And one of the results of these amazing new friendships with I've met friends with so many people, whether they're viewers or other podcasters or indie dyers, all kinds of people that I probably would have never encountered had it not been for doing this. But I have actually been so blessed to be getting the chance to get closer and closer with a handful of other podcasters who are sort of just like me. We're like, I think we like to call ourselves sort of the little people. We don't have a bazillion viewers or followers or things like that. And we're totally okay with that because honestly, I think even among our group of podcasters, we probably would agree that even if how many of us are there? I think we're up to like 7 of us now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. Even if the 7 of us just watched each other's podcasts, I think we'd be perfectly cool with that, quite frankly. I know I would be. I don't want to speak for the other ladies, but so anyway, one of the things we've talked about and one of the things I've thought about is that we wanted to sort of form a group that could sort of foster this sense of building relationships through this crazy community that we have. And one of the jokes we've kind of talked about the fact that none of us are very speedy when it comes to knitting. For crying out loud, you guys have been watching me work on this boxy, I feel like, for months, even though it's not really been that long. So, again, I want to take a risk and drop some language here on you guys, but at some point in a conversation, one of us must have mentioned the fact that we kind of are a group of slow ass knitters, and thus an idea was born. Because one of the things that we wanted to embrace is the reality that not everybody knits like a crazy machine. Okay, there are a lot of slow ass knitters in the world. And they are people like us who just love what we do. They love spending time knitting. It's not a race. I mean, it's about having some beautiful things to show for all of our work and time and effort. But nothing should ever feel stressful about knitting. It should be slow and steady, stress-free, and amazing. So what we decided that we wanted to do is we wanted to start sort of our own multi-podcaster Ravelry group called the Slow Ass Knitters. When you look for it in Ravelry, and I will put it up here so you can see it, because again, I'm saying the word multiple times right now, and I apologize if that's offending anybody, but I hope I kind of explained sort of the tongue-in-cheek way that it came about. But what we are doing is actually it is spelled slow, and then $, okay, knitters. So if you are looking for the group and you would like to join the group on Ravelry, that's what you should be looking for. So obviously building friendships within this community is one of our goals together. It's sort of, bringing people together, because sometimes what's of joy to watch when you actually have a Ravelry group is not even so much the personal relationships that I get to build, but I love watching the relationships that other people get to build when they talk back and forth with one another or they comment on each other's posts and things like that. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to start this group. The other reason we wanted to start the group was because we thought it would be super fun to actually have seasonal knit-alongs together as a giant group of podcasters. Giant by giant, again, I mean 7. Okay, so we have decided that we are going to do just that. And actually, we have already kicked off our very first seasonal knit-along. Before I go any further, and so some of you who are watching this now probably already know about this, because I know that some of you watch many, if not all, of these other lovely ladies and friends of mine. So let me just run down the list real quick. We have Lynn from the Sunshine and Bubblegum podcast. We have Jenny from the Lucky Jenny Knits podcast, who you have to lovingly just Lucky Jenny. That's who she is. And then we have Jen Sheelan of the Jen Sheelan podcast, Sarah of the Hooks and Books podcast, Lacey of the Knitted Cupcake podcast, and also Amy of the Amy's Knotted Knits podcast. So with myself included then, that's a group of 7 of us. One thing you should know is that we won't all be hosting necessarily all the cows. We've got things that maybe there might be times that we have other things going on and we might not be able to commit to that. But for this first cowl, it is actually a summer tops cowl. And we have opened up a thread in the Slow Ass Knitters Ravelry group that tells you everything you need to know. You have to look for the chatter thread, okay? That's the first. In the chatter thread is where you'll find all of the information that you need to find that's important to know about this. And actually, as I'm telling you a couple more things, I'll open that up and just so I can kind of repeat and mention some of the more important things that you need to know. I can tell you that, as I said, I'm late to the party, not only in announcing this Slow Ass Knitters group to begin with, but also the other thing that I'm a little bit late to the party with is telling you guys that this already started on May 1st. So I apologize. I don't feel too terribly bad about that, though, because this Summer Tops Knit Along is going to be going all the way through the end of July 31st. Okay, so you've got plenty of time. Although I may be late in getting you started, you still have ample time to enter. So here I go. Let me just bring this up real quick because I believe it's in the very, very first post that was started by Lucky Jenny. Going back to page 1, I got some wind going in my hair again. All right, so here we go. Knitting and crochet, definitely acceptable, okay? Any summer weight top, could be a sweater, it could be a t-shirt, it could be a tank top, it could be a dress, okay? Anything you make for any sized person, baby, human through adult, that counts for this knit along. Whips are welcome. We only ask that they not be any more than 50% complete, right? That they be less than 50% complete when you actually begin joining in on the cowl with us. Certainly, double dipping is always encouraged. And I already told you the host. So if you have any other questions about that, by all means, go ahead and ask them. I'd be happy to share more information if you're looking for it. The other thing, too, to mention is that we are going to, for Instagram purposes, we are going to start I think a hashtag has already been started, and I will put that up here for you on the screen. So obviously it stands for the Slow Ass Knitters Summer Top Knit Along. Okay, and 17, of course, for the year. So that's that. What I wanted to show you guys next is what I started working on for my summer top, because I figured since the boxy was a success, and quite frankly, I almost feel like this, for me, like I said, this really could be considered a summer top. So if any of you are looking for a suggestion, by all means, that might be a good one for you to try. Oh, it looks like I'm about to get some little bit of puppy love. Hello, how are you, Missy? Do you want a summer top? Addie would rock a summer top. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that she is a model and a half. Oh, and there they go. There you go, Jennifer. There's more shenanigans and earthquakes for you. They just like to change the camera angle so that they can be seen better, I think, sometimes is really what this is all about. And Addie was just sniffing out the next thing I wanted to show you anyway, which is, could you sit, please? Sit. She is a model, but not always the best listener. Not so much. I have to start bringing cookies when I do this. I think they would actually behave themselves better if I could bribe them with cookies. What do you think about this? Do you think this would make a lovely, is this your color? I don't know. I think that would make that, nah, I don't think that would be your color. You're so pretty. Thank you. Sorry, guys, we're having a moment here. All right, now she's stretching and now she's laying down. But before I start talking about my summer top, I'm going to stop this because Addie is barking because you know what she's saying? Mom, it's starting to rain. You have to get your stuff and bring it inside, right? Oh my God, she is. She's saying it's starting to rain. Let's go inside. Is that what you're saying? What do you want to do? Oh my gosh. All right, hold that thought, guys. I'll be right back. Lesson learned, you guys. Always listen to your dog when she starts barking like a crazy dog at you, because she's probably trying to tell you, hey, Mom, in about 2 minutes, it's going to be torrentially raining outside. I wish I could show you guys. I can see out the what do you call it? The doors to the deck. It's pouring. Oh my God, if I had stayed out there another 2 minutes, I would be soaking wet. So many thanks to Addie for alerting me to the fact that I should probably move my dry tushy inside. But anyway, what I was starting to show you guys was this, okay? And there is a bit of a story behind all of this. As I mentioned before, we have this Summer Tops knit along going on in the Slow Ass Knitters group. And I, of course, was really excited about that myself because I wanted to partake. I wanted to make a summer top. I actually think now I want to make a million summer tops because one of the things I neglected to mention about the group that we started, the thread that we started for the Cal, is that there is a bundle that I'm going to apologize in advance. Don't say I didn't warn you. If you look at that bundle, you are going to see so many summer tops that you want to make. Next thing you know, you are going to be clicking on a million things to put into your favorites or your queue or whatever. They range. There are some that are paid for patterns. There are some that are free. Oh my gosh, just everything in there is in one way, shape, or form really, really tempting. But one of the things that I did was I did finally settle on a pattern that I wanted to do. What I don't have though, I wanted to tell you, but this pattern, this project has taken a little bit of a turn. Actually, oh wait, I can reach it right here. Oh. You got to see the back side of my boxy anyway. So here was my scoop with my summer top situation. I had actually, if you remember, I told you that I had technically one. I had challenged myself with all of my best self challenge points that I hope you'll be able to really see the color in this. Probably not as much. No, that looks pretty good. It's very, very tonal with blues and grays and even a little bit of lavender. This was one of my 2 skeins of One Twisted Tree yarn that I purchased from Danny, who, by the way, Danny, I'm not sure that you're watching this, but if you are, I just wanted to give you a shout out and a hug and to tell you that I'm thinking of you and your family. And you guys are amazing. So I just wanted to mention that. But anyway, this is her lustrous base, which is, oh my gosh, what is silk merino, right? It is the softest, most beautiful yarn that I had started to work with in a very long time, probably right up there. I liked it almost similarly as much as I liked the marionated yarns that I used for my V-neck boxy. But so here's the thing. I started to try to make, let me bring it up. I think I'm going to have some glare issues possibly here to show you this, but I don't know if you'll really see the detail, but this is the Talland tee, Talland, Talland tee by Sonia Barjalowska. And Sonia, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but I will put all of the information in here. This is actually a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's a really lovely tank. From about here up, it's pretty much stockinette. If you can't see it, I'm going to try and put in a picture as well so you can see a better photo. And one of the things I love about it are the sleeve detail. They kind of they kind of curve out a little bit, but they're just like a little teeny tiny sleeve, just enough of a little flare off the edge to cover some action there. Not a lot. Obviously, it's a completely it's pretty sleeveless though, other than that little teeny tiny thing that pops out. But what's beautiful is this sort of open, airy, lacy design that takes place on the majority of the body of the tee. So I really thought, when I had looked at the pattern and I read everything, I thought it looked like something that would be appropriate for a fingering weight yarn. So I thought that would be stunning in this. So I started to work with this. Those of you who know me know that I'm not always very good about doing a gauge swatch, but usually when it's a garment, I try to do the right thing. And I'm glad that in this case I did because the pattern actually called for, let me see, I actually have it right here. Let me see. Calls for a US size 7 needle. So I started with that. I was getting absolutely, I didn't bring the stuff that I wrote down, just wanted basically to give you guys the sense that at the end of the day, I tried 3 different needle sizes. No, I was having a really hard time getting gauge, and Even when I got closer to gauge, I definitely was not happy with the fabric, especially in the stockinette stitch. It just seemed too loose. Like, what I liked about the pattern is it looked like it's supposed to be a little tighter with the stockinette stitch, and then it opens up and gets obviously lacier for the rest of the garment. So when we were in town the other day, I popped into Adirondack Yarns and I asked for some advice, and immediately they told me what I should have noticed on my own was that if I had looked at the gauge that they were calling for and the yarn that they used in the pattern, that I just wasn't working with a yarn that was close enough to the yarn that they were calling for. So I had a few decisions to make. I could make some modifications to the pattern and try to do something to get it to work the way I wanted it to with that yarn, or I could just save this yarn, which is so beautiful, and pick a more appropriate project for it. So that is what I decided to do. So my One Twisted Tree yarn is just going back on the back burner temporarily, because in the meantime, there's always, what's the whole make lemonade out of lemons kind of situation. Not that I don't even think that was a particularly sour situation, but one of the things I've always wanted to try is working with linen. And I have a lot of people, I've had a lot of people in the past, I've heard a lot of people in the past rather talk about the Louette Euroflax, which is the wet spun linen. So anyway, I don't know if this color is showing up as well as, that's not too bad. But this is actually Buttercup. When I was in the yarn shop, Sue at Adirondack Yarns had suggested that she thought maybe linen might actually work well for this tee. So that's what I'm giving a try. So I just have, I actually was able to get started with that. I am holding it in this gorgeous bag that I'm going to talk to you guys about also in a moment. Let me just take this out. Hopefully it's not a twisty mess. So I have started. It actually is worked from the bottom up. So you're spending a lot of time working on that lacy section first. And so far, one of the things I'm assuming with showing you guys this project is that you're not really going to see it very well until it's actually done and blocked. Lace in that regard has always been a mystery to me. I think this may be the first time I've done any lace work on a garment like this, but I have done lace on shawls a considerable number of times, and it never ceases to amaze me how lace, it goes from like crap to gorgeous. It's with blocking and whatnot. So I'm assuming that will probably be the case with this as well. I also am really excited about what people tell you about linen and how it definitely feels different. And then once it's actually, once you've worked with it for a while, and then once you've done its thing with, treating it and whatnot, that it actually does soften up and gets this beautiful drape to it that I think will be really lovely with this top. Now, truth be told, the only thing I wanted to, so here you can kind of see about how much I have done so far there. Not a ton, but I just actually started this, I think, the other 2 days ago. So I'm pretty excited with what I've accomplished so far. And it's a really relatively easy pattern in terms of the actual lace repeat sections. It's a 16 row repeat. So, and 8 of those rows are kind of the same. And then the other 8 kind of go opposite. So I don't know if you can really tell that yet from here. So like between these 2 stitch markers, there is one panel, and you can sort of kind of see what's going on there. But again, difficult to see right now. Here's the thing. I still don't think I'm getting exactly the right gauge, but I'm willing to give it a shot because this is going quickly enough that I figure worst case scenario, if I have to decide that it's not working and rip it out, like I'll probably do a little bit more. The only thing I'm not liking is the fact that since it's worked from the bottom up, it's going to be a little odder in terms of like even just eyeball trying it on to see like sort of how it drapes or fits. I also think too it'll be misleading because I have a feeling this is one of those situations where because of the because of the linen, it's going to look very, very different when it's blocked and finished. So if any of you have any advice, if you've worked with linen before and you can already sense any kind of pitfalls I might be getting myself into with this summer top, please feel free to share them, because you know I'm always looking for that feedback and advice. But I'm excited to continue with this and see how it goes. The one thing I will say is that what I opted to do was actually make, I tried to figure out in terms of the positive ease that this pattern allows for. I tried to even make what I think might have even been a size bigger than what I actually needed, because I figured that the way this top actually looks, I won't be upset particularly if it doesn't end up being like as quite as fitted as it looks in the picture, because I actually think, obviously, because of the openness of it, I will be wearing something underneath it anyway, so I want to accommodate for that. And I don't mind, gosh, even like with the boxy now, like I'm realizing I don't mind something a little more roomy and flowy. Believe me, I got curves that not everybody needs to see. So the idea of this being even going for a looser, drapier fit with this top, I'm willing to take that risk and try it. So that's my summer top that I've got going on, you guys, right now. So with that said, please go over and check out the Slow Ass Knitters, because these girls that I've gotten to know are so much fun. And the other thing too, we are not only going to be, each podcaster is going to be doing each podcaster that is sponsoring the Summer Tops Cal is going to be drawing for a prize out of the Finished Objects thread at the end of July. But in the meantime, we also are going to do some fun sort of random things that you won't even know will hit you. Okay, I actually think maybe two of the podcasters, I think Lynn and Jenny, have already drawn sort of random people from the chatter thread and are giving away like pattern prize or something small like that. So we're all going to be kind of doing that as well. So get on over there, join that group if you haven't already, because it's going to be a lot of fun, and check out that bundle. And, that is where I have to leave you with sort of hashtag sorry, not sorry, because you are going to find so many gorgeous things that are in that bundle. It's actually ridiculous. I could make summer tops forever, for days. So that is that. All right, let me put this back in the bag real quick so that I have it for the car ride home today. That is definitely what I will be working on in the car. Couple more things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So last time I actually had, I can't reach it. There we go. Came in and I kind of plopped things on the table here so that I could show you guys. So last time I had told you that I promised I would get back to a book that had been gifted by a friend of mine. So Dariona from Ireland, who was my swap partner back in December for the Advent swap with the Spicy Homemaker. And one of the things, obviously, I have started to do is this sort of new segment for my podcast, which I'm referring to as the Knitting Bookshelf. Okay. It's not the knitting bookshelf, it's the knitting book shelf. All right. What I mean by that is some of these books are not necessarily books that have anything to do with learning to knit or pattern books or things like that. But because of my own personal love of children's literature, I am on the quest to find as many children's books as I can that have, in some way, shape, or form, little hints of knitting either sprinkled in them. Sometimes they'll be really overt, and then sometimes they'll be more subtle. So in this case, we have this lovely book called Hattie Pack, The Journey Home, and that is by Emma Levy. And this book is adorable. So Hattie, as you can see, let me just kind of give you a little rundown here. Hattie loves eggs. All right, there we go. And what she loved even more is what was hatched out of them. Not going to read you the whole book, I promise, just little hints here and there. So basically what you start to see is Hattie ends up taking care of lots of these creatures that are hatched out of these eggs. And obviously all of the crazy shenanigans that go along with that. But what I wanted to show you is this page. And let me read it first and then I'll hold it up. So she's talking about her family and all of the adventures that they have. And then she says, but what they all loved most was their birthday. because every year Hattie made each hatchling a perfectly knitted treat just for them. So seriously, look at that down there. Look at, she's giving him the little knitted scarf. It's so cute. All right, so that's what happens basically is she knits each of her little hatchlings something for their birthdays. Eventually what happens though is the hatchlings grow old enough that it's time for them to sort of grow up and fly off on their own and leave the nest and embark upon new adventures. They all leave the coop, and she kind of tells the tale about how they kind of, go off on their adventures and how they're ending up in their new places. Oh, look at that. There they are, dropping down in the little parachutes over the big city. So cute. The illustrations in this book are adorable, by the way. Now, she says, Hattie's family was getting smaller and smaller, but their journey was getting bigger and bigger. Now they're going up mountains. Now they're in caves. And then basically, in the end, Hattie ends up, all of the hatchlings are where they need to be. And now Hattie is alone again. So she says Hattie just imagined her hatchlings busy living their lives, and it made her happy. But now it was their birthday, the first one apart. And Hattie couldn't help wishing they were. So as you can see this picture of Hattie, and there she is. She's sitting in her rocking chair, and she's knitting for them because obviously she gives them something for their birthday. Do you guys see, though? You can sort of see shadows in the background on that picture. Because at the end, total spoiler alert, here you go, sorry. Surprise! They all shouted! And there they are. And look, it says, we've made something for you, they said. And there it is. Wow, Hattie cried. A perfectly knitted treat just for me. I love it, but what I love most is my family. Dariona, this was such a perfect gift for you to share with me, because I think one thing probably a lot of us have in common is our love of making things for the people in our lives who are most important for us. And that was sort of what this book, Hattie Peck, The Journey Home, kind of captured for me. Sometimes when I am working on things that I'm gifting to other people, I have like the little selfish devil on my shoulder saying, you want to make more summer tops for yourself or something like that. But it is so great, that feeling that you get when you gift something to somebody else and they really love it. So I can kind of relate to Hattie Peck in this story. And I just think this is another great children's book with a little knitting flair for you guys to consider if you have something you want to add to your own bookshelf for your family, especially to be able to read to some kids. It's a great book. So check it out, Hattie Peck, The Journey Home by Emma Levy. All right, I have one more thing that I want to talk about, and then one thing I want to show you guys. Oh my God, there's a squirrel running across. Oh boy, here we go. The dogs are probably, if the dogs, I'm warning you guys right now, if the dogs see the squirrel, there's going to be hell breaking loose. Once again, we shall see what happens with that. So, okay. I have definitely been getting some really exciting mail lately, and I'm going to spread it out. I don't want to take a lot of time to show it all to you right now, but I do want to show you a couple things. I mentioned, again, one of the things that I said before, just about being so excited to be able to do this podcast and meet the wonderful people that I'm meeting. And also, too, the generosity of people just continues to absolutely astound me. And just in the last few weeks, I've received a couple particularly special presents from some friends, some older friends that I've been getting to know for a little while, and then some brand new friends as well. So the first thing I wanted to show you is this gorgeous drawstring bag, this batik bag that was made for me. Look at that. It's so pretty. There's the detail on this. There's this awesome like rope with a bead that's just super sturdy. It's so beautifully made. There's a little tag here on the side. You can even hang like some little stitch markers and things like that. This is definitely going to be my summer top project bag, because it actually seems like it's going to be the perfect size for something like that. But this was made and gifted to me by my friend Cindy, who, those of you who are Instagram followers, may have encountered Cindy on Instagram. She is Ms. Cozy Couch on Instagram, and she is just a sweetheart. She's so much fun it's her reading her posts are so much fun. And right now, Cindy, too, I think a lot of us are totally thinking about you. We know things have been challenging for you at the moment. But one of the things that's amazing to me about you, Cindy, is the fact that even though you're going through a lot in your life, you're constantly thinking of other people, and your generosity is just so appreciated. Not only, Cindy sent me a box of beautiful things that first of all, I didn't want to transport them all up here. But I also just wanted to just generally say that everything that she shared with me was so thoughtful and so appreciated. I did grab a couple of other things, though. One of the things that I loved was this sock blank by Wolfiend. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a one of a kind. It's in a mermaid colorway. It looks like it's going to be so fun, but I also think it's crazy ridiculous, Cindy. I don't know if you realize this or not, but it like perfectly matches the project bag. So that is so much fun. I can't wait to cast that on as soon as I can. And then also too, believe it or not, I have never had one of these little needle cozies with the little snappy snaps, which by the way, it's just fun to even snap them open and closed. But the other thing I thought that was awesome is this is actually one of Roberta's Steel City Stitchers little needle cozies with the sheep on them, which of course you guys know how much I love my sheep, as we all do. So these are just a few of the little goodies that Cindy shared with me, and I just wanted to sort of say thank you and to let you know, Cindy, that I'm thinking about you all the time. Jamie, myself, and the dog send you big hugs. So thank you again so much. The other surprise that I received, which I kind of suspected maybe it was coming just because of a really cool thing that happened, I guess, again, because of podcasting. A while back, I had been to the Bull and Vine Trunk Show at Do You Knit in New Jersey, and there was this absolutely lovely woman that was sitting at the table and knitting with a couple. And the funniest thing is I'm pretty certain that this lovely woman was actually sitting and knitting with Chelsea and Sue of the Legacy Knits podcast, who had come down from Connecticut. I think that's right, for the trunk show. And this woman had this amazing project bag. So because when you see an awesome project bag, of course, the normal thing to do is to ask somebody where they got it. And when I asked her about it, she just looked at me and smiled, and she actually said, "Oh, I made it." And so I just, I said how much I admired it, and it just seemed like it was the perfect size, and the way she had it sitting, it like kind of made that perfect bucket for a sock project and whatnot. Long story short, I come to realize that this woman that I had this sort of just random brief encounter with at the trunk show was none other than Seashore Sharon, who I later, as I started to watch more and more podcasts, I realized that Sharon is really, really involved with a lot of different podcasters and gives a lot of support and encouragement to the community. And so it was kind of exciting to me when all of a sudden Sharon sort of discovered my podcast and kind of reached out and said, hey, and said she was enjoying watching the podcast. So I couldn't help but tell her, like, hey, we actually have met before, kind of. You wouldn't remember this, but I totally do. And I told her, so when I described the project bag that I remembered complimenting her on, she told me she knew exactly which one I was talking about. It must just so happens that Sharon must have had some extra of that same fabric. So look at what she sent me. She sent me the exact bucket little project bag that I had complimented her on when I first met her. It is adorable. Let me show you too. This is what I meant. This is kind of how it was sitting, like perfectly on the table when she was working on her little sock project while she was knitting. It sat there beautifully. All right. So now I totally have my own. So Sharon, thank you so much. And what I'm even more excited about is that I would love it if I got to actually someday get together with Sharon and maybe do a little knitting ourselves together, because she actually does live in New Jersey, which is not terribly far from me. So down by the beach. I never mind a ride down to the beach. So anyway, Sharon, thank you. You and Cindy both, you both made, I want to say too that both of your packages came on days where I'd had really long days at work, and it was just really nice to come home to a nice surprise in the mail. So that is that. All right. The hilarity here is that I'm pretty certain that the same thing happened to me last year when I filmed an episode right after I had been to the Washington County Farm and Fiber tour with the Knit Local Getaway that is put together by Sarah Pomegranate. Sarah does the Yarns at Yinhu podcast, which is an audio podcast that I adore. Actually, you may recall I awarded Sarah a sheepy, and I was able to deliver her sheepy to her at the Getaway, which was awesome. It was so cute. She actually kept it on display, sort of on a table in sort of the common room that we all shared, where we sort of sat together and knitted and chatted and had such a good time all weekend. I wish I had more time to really get into super, super detail about all of the adventures from our weekend. So one of the things that I'm thinking is that, I don't know, people do these vlog things, and sometimes the vlog things are a little bit shorter than obviously I tend to ramble on for, but they're focused on one thing. So I am thinking, instead of continuing to blabber on as much as I would love to about the Farm and Fiber tour, I am definitely going to hold that. And maybe when I get home this week one evening, I will get out all of my goods from the Knit Local Getaway and be able to share some things with you guys about that, because it sort of does deserve more attention than I can probably give it right now. That being said, there is one other thing I want to show you guys, because Jamie is out. He actually ran to deliver some, frighteningly enough, he literally took a saw to our deck railing earlier, right before I started podcasting, and pretty much ripped out an entire section of railing so that he could go deliver it to a specialty hardware place that does a lot of work with custom, sort of custom design. They do a lot of really neat sort of accent pieces, and we want to have some gates made so that it'll be easier to let the dogs on and off the porch and the deck when we want to. So that's where he is. So I had hoped that maybe he could come on and chat with me for a little bit about this, but I'm not going to wait. I want to just kind of finish this up because I want to finish packing so that we can leave pretty shortly after he gets back. But if you saw it on Instagram, you know that one of the exciting highlights of our weekend was getting our antler chandelier. So this is going to seem kind of lame, but I realize now that I'm inside, I can just kind of do this. I feel like I should have like the la, with some kind of like bells, whistles, something going on. But there it is. Let me duck down a little bit. You could just see the top of my head. But if you want to just admire the antler chandelier for a moment, there it is. Like I said before, I can't, here, I'll do this. How's that? Like I said before, I cannot fault Jamie for wanting that thing. It is pretty cool. It was frightening to watch him put it up, but I am so glad that we got it. And I think, yeah, it's a beauty. So anyway, I think that's a perfect note to leave you guys on for now, is that little chandelier. I'll put in some more pictures and stuff. You might have already seen them. I might put them at the beginning of the episode in the intro, or maybe at the end, just to kind of show you some of the chandelier antics that happened in order to get that to go up. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me today. We're going to hit the road soon as Jamie gets back. We probably won't be back up here to the cabin again until Memorial Day weekend, which actually is only a couple weeks away. So who knows, maybe the next time I get to podcast, if I stick to my plan and try to be more brief starting next time, if I podcast in 2 weeks, maybe I'll be able to do that because I won't have as many things to talk to you guys about. But I'm glad you stuck it out with me this time around because it's been several weeks since I've seen you all. So I hope that's okay. But thank you again, everybody. Don't forget to go ahead and keep putting in your, keep chattering along in the Mitten a Month Cal in my Paws for Stitches podcast Ravelry group. Don't forget to go check out the Slow Ass Knitters, because who wouldn't want to be a slow ass knitter? And also, too, within that group, don't forget to check out the Summer Tops knit along that we have going on, because I think we're going to see some gorgeous things coming out of that finished objects thread as we start to move along into the end of May. All right, so thank you guys so much. And as I always say, whatever you're doing, no matter how busy your week gets this week, please take the time out to pause for those stitches. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.